guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be like a full glam tutorial. I'm going to show you how to do everything on my face, eyeshadow, foundation routine, well except my eyebrows. I didn't do my eyebrows on camera, I'm sorry, but I do have an eyebrow tutorial if you guys want to see that. If you would like to learn how to get this look, then just keep on watching. So the very first thing I'm going to do is prime, and I'm using the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. Make sure that before you put this primer on that you shake it up, because otherwise it will be liquidy when it comes out and you don't want that. For foundation, I'm using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation, which I haven't used this on camera in some months. So I'm gonna use this today, and I'm gonna pump a few on the back of my hand and then take it with my beauty blender and blend it onto my face. And the reason why I'm using this today is because all the rest of my foundations are oxidizing on me, like getting darker or getting like this reddish tone. Do y'all have any foundations that like when you first pump it on the back of your hand and first put it on your face, it has like a yellow undertone, and then after a while it oxidizes to having like a red undertone? I don't understand why my foundations are doing that and what's causing that. And this is the only foundation that I have that doesn't do that. But I do have like a con with this foundation. I don't like it because it really seeps into my smile lines, so that's why I don't use it as much. But it's the only foundation that I like the shade of it. So if you guys have that problem or know what I'm talking about, tell me what foundations you guys use that doesn't happen to you, because I want a foundation that doesn't do that and that doesn't seep into my smile line and that's good for oily skin. I know I have a lot of wants. But yeah, if you know a foundation, let me know. For concealer, I'm going to use the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer. I have mine in the shade Medium Neutral. And then before I set my face, I'm going to go ahead and apply my highlight. I've been using the Makeup Forever Pro Light Fusion 2 highlighter pretty much every time I do my makeup for the past few weeks. I really like this highlight, that's all I can say. So I'm going to apply this on the highest points of my face. I've said in my previous video, I do this before I set my face because the highlight sticks to my skin better and it looks more like a lit from within instead of I used a highlight. And then I'm just gonna go back in with my beauty blender with the side that I used for my concealer to blend out my concealer, and just go on top of that so it isn't like super harsh. Next, I'm going to go in with the Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder, and I have mine in the shade Light. I've been thinking this whole time it was in the shade Translucent, and then somebody asked me what shade I use in this, and I told them Translucent, and then I looked it up and it said Light. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but my point is I've been thinking that it's translucent this whole time. I'm going in with my beauty blender. I'm going to set the areas that I used concealer with, and I'm going to avoid the area that I put my highlight. So I'm just going to press that powder into my skin and pretty much blend as if I'm using concealer. And again, avoiding the area that I used for my highlight. But if you get a little bit of the powder onto the highlight, it's okay. Not the end of the world, because if you get too much on it, you could just add a little more highlight. And then I'm going to set my chin area and my smile lines. Next, I'm going to go in with the Makeup Forever Pro Finish Powder, and this one is in the shade 173, which is the same shade that I'm in the actual foundation, but it looks light on here. But I'm going to dip my beauty blender in here and then set my face. For bronzer, I'm going to use the Laura Geller Sunset Deep Bronzer. And I'm going to use my Japonesque Contour and Highlighting Brush for this bronzer because this brush picks up products very lightly, so it's harder to mess up, basically. So now we're going to move on to eyeshadow. I actually am going to prime my eyelids with the same concealer we used to highlight. I just put a little bit on the back of my hand, and I'm going to go in with a synthetic angled brush and just blend this on my lids. So today for my eyeshadow, I'm actually going to be using two different palettes, and I kind of try on my channels when I'm doing a tutorial to only use one palette because it makes the most sense to me. But the palette that I used for this look, which I've done this look already, I just didn't and film it for YouTube, but I've done this look, and when I did it, I used this palette, and there's no like really dark shade, so I had to outsource to a different palette to find a dark shade. So you can of course just use this palette or just use the other palette that I'm going to use for this look, because it's really shades that are in majority of our palettes, so don't be pressured to get either one of these palettes. So yeah, I'm just warning you guys before that I'm using 2 palettes instead of 1. So to get started, I'm starting with Thanks A Latte, which is just a beige shade, and I'm just using this to set my concealer that I use for my eyeshadow base. So the very first eyeshadow that I always use is Transition color. You're correct. So what a coincidence, they have the shade Transition in this palette. So I'm going to use that first. So I'm going to just apply this to my upper crease area, and this is just going to make your eyeshadow look a lot better than if you were to start just with a dark shade in your crease. The next shade that I use is Wine and Dine. So with my Sigma E40 brush, I'm going to apply this Cranberry shade just kind of directly under that transition color and in my outer corner of my eye. Then I'm going back in with Transition just to blend out that shade. Next, with the shade Brownie Points, I'm going to apply this on top of that pink shade. And then, so like I said, I did have to outsource, so I'm going in with the shade Punk right here, and this is just going to deepen up the entire look. And I'm going to apply this much like the 2 shades that we used right before this one, and apply it to the outer corner and the crease. So for the lower lash line, I'm actually going to go back in with that same shade that we just put into our outer corner and apply this to the outer part of my lower lash line and connect it to the top lash line. And then finally, for the lid shade, I'm going to take Toffee, and I'm going to take that shade on a MAC 242 brush and apply this on the empty space of my lid. And I'm going to use this brush to kind of cut the crease because I didn't really feel like laying down the concealer first. So I'm going to do this as precisely as I can. And then I'm also going to apply just a little bit on the inner corner of the lower lash line. So for lashes, I'm going to apply the Lilly Miami lashes. I just bought a new pair and I'm excited because these were my favorite lashes for a long time and I broke them in half. So it's been a while. So I'm going to add a tad bit of mascara, and I'm using the Benefit They're Real mascara. I'm going to use the end of it to kind of put it on just my real lashes to blend them in with the false lashes. And then I'm going to put a regular coat on my bottom lashes. So for my lips, I'm going to line them with MAC Chestnut lip pencil. And then fill in the center with Dose of Colors Truffle liquid lipstick. And that is the completed look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to keep yourself updated on my new videos. And I promise I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.